Hello, and welcome to the Rufus Reviews podcast, name to be determined, and the very first episode, the pilot one. We have today lined up for you a bit of a rundown of a bit of an experiment, really, and I thought we'd look at a few different things. First up, we'll have a look at some recent news, what the wonderful government has been up to with regards to internet piracy, and a bit of a more lighthearted look at recent entertainment news. Then we can have going to move on to a movie review. We're going to see what American Hustle gives us. Then there's going to be a little segment called Rufus Rants, and that hopefully will be entertaining for you. A little bit of a surprise, a big experiment, this one, followed by a game review, and we'll finish up with the Clever Geek of the Week, the inaugural Clever Geek of the Week for the podcast. Now, my name is Trevor Holland. I will be your host. I am the man behind Rufus Reviews, the blog that whole maybe 10, 12 people look at on a semi-regular basis. But, you know, every little bit helps. So sit back, enjoy, and at the end of the show, I'll let you know how to give feedback. I am certainly after a bit of a rundown on what people thought and what you think I might be able to do better, as well as I suppose a bit of a teaser of some of the future plans. So please sit back, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks a lot. News time. Intro subject to change. The big news story for the past week really comes from our Australian Attorney General George Brandis, who revealed earlier this week that he intends to tackle the scourge of online piracy. How is he going to do this? Is it going to be a reasonable, measured response? Is he going to look at what has and hasn't worked overseas? Is he going to consider the rights of the consumer? And is he going to do a sensible, measured approach? Hell no. No. He has announced that he is looking at introducing the so-called graduated response, which is the 3 strikes rule, implying that repeat offenders will most likely have their internet removed. He is also talking about measures where ISPs will need to police the internet on behalf of the rights holders. Such things as taking down all websites, which they already do. If a website is hosting copyrighted material without consent of the right holder, the ISP that owns that domain does take it down. It has happened before in Australia. It will happen again. This part of the proposal is a nothing part of the proposal. Wherever that falls down, of course, is that most of these sites are hosted overseas. So it really means that the internet providers can do nothing in any way to take them down. The next step, however, is with considering the blocking of rogue internet sites, rogue dens of piracy that are out there, like the Pirate Bay, kick-ass torrents, the usual suspects that get mentioned whenever these sort of stories come up. Is this a good idea? Of course it isn't. Both France and the UK have both tried to bring in these sort of systems, and they are both in the process of being dismantled. The French organisation put in charge with monitoring the graduated response policies has been shown to be costing too much money to administer with too little result. And the Brits have passed an act in their parliament to dismantle their current anti-piracy regulations because it's simply not working. Moving on from that, what is really interesting about this story is how it relates to recent developments and recent announcements. First up, the Australian Law Reform Commission put out a report saying how Australia should bring in a proper fair use policy with regards to copyright. So a fair use policy has a number of advantages. First up, it covers the caching of search results and caching of web pages by internet providers in order to provide their customers a faster, more streamlined experience. Under current Australian copyright law, this very standard practice, which is used all over the world, Google uses it, is technically illegal in Australia. There is no scope for ISPs to hold data. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's all movies and music, but if a lot of people are accessing the same websites, it makes sense for the internet provider to keep a cached copy of that website. It makes it quicker and easier, it uses less bandwidth, and really makes things more efficient for everyone. In the same talks where this was announced, Google Australia actually stepped up and said that due to Australia's antiquated, completely outdated copyright laws, they would never have been able to actually set up and start in Australia. They would have been shut down before they could get anywhere. And as we know, Google is now one of the world's biggest companies. Of course, the thing that really scares the copyright holders about fair use is the idea that people can format shift their content. So an example of that would be, say, you have a DVD and you would like to watch that movie on your tablet when you're heading somewhere. Fair use would allow you to convert that DVD into an appropriate file format that you could load on your tablet and go. And technically, you are allowed to have a backup copy of your content in Australia. Where it falls down is the digital rights management on most content now. You may be allowed to make a backup copy of your stuff, but you are not allowed to bypass digital rights management to do it. Bit of a catch-22. The other recent development that strangely seems to tie in with this announcement, with the timing of it, was the news that Foxtel has now got exclusive rights to the next season of Game of Thrones. Previously, you were able to purchase it off iTunes in Australia, as well as watching it on Foxtel. And there were a considerable amount of people purchasing Game of Thrones legally through iTunes so they could watch it promptly and legally, as it was available very shortly after the screening of the show overseas. Now, with Foxtel forking out megabucks to make sure that any alternative is locked out, there is going to be a lot of people who don't want to pay the $100 plus a month for Foxtel to access this one particular show. It really has alienated anyone who used an alternative method previously, alternate legal method previously. We already know that Australia is one of the biggest downloaders of Game of Thrones, and this is just going to make that worse. Obviously, our friends at Foxtel, their upper echelons in their management and their Lord High Almighty doesn't like the idea of people bypassing Foxtel and going straight to the internet to get their Game of Thrones fix. So it isn't a big stretch to imagine that with a bit of lobbying, they have also pushed for a change in how Australia looks after online piracy. This is a merry-go-round that we have to get off. There was talks between ISPs and rights holders early last year, and one of Australia's biggest ISPs, iiNet, walked away from that because apparently the representatives of the entertainment industry refused to consider any middle ground. They refused to discuss anything other than what they wanted to push. Considering there have been a number of studies, and not just by the various dodgy studies as favoured by the entertainment industry themselves, and there's certainly been dodgy studies on both sides, but things like the University of Manchester, a number of American institutions, European institutions, have performed studies that essentially have shown that in areas where there are high piracy rates, there's also higher spending on entertainment. The figures that they have dug up show that pirates, for example, a big college town in the US, strangely enough, they are also big centres of piracy. And looking at sales of content in those same areas show that it outstrips most other places with low background piracy. Pirates do buy stuff. They listen to the stuff and they buy the stuff they like. So anyway, back to the original point about the proposed new anti-piracy laws. In summary, the Australian government has just announced that they intend to waste a whole heap of time and money on a lost cause. Clap, clap.
Who are you?
Star-Lord.
Who?
Well, Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw. Forget it.
This week also saw the release of the world first trailer of the next Marvel movie coming after Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy. Very interesting choice, one considering just how obscure these characters are, pretty much even by Marvel standards. We are met in the trailer by an intergalactic group of misfits, apparently led by Peter Quill, also known as Star-Lord, and his friends, maybe, don't know for sure, Drax, Gamora, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot. Each of the main heroes gets introduced, lineup style, by John C. Reilly, who always adds class, let's face it, and there's much entertainment just from some very, very brief grabs of each of these characters. It certainly looks like no one is taking it too seriously, and I think everyone had a lot of fun. Hidden away in the trailer, there are a few interesting sights. A very brief peek at the Collector, who, if you stayed for the end credits of Thor the Dark World, you will recognise him from that. And almost unrecognisable in this is Karen Gillan, formerly best known as Amy Pond from Doctor Who, and she has been confirmed that she is playing a bad guy, and does show a very blink and you'll miss it shot of her getting ready to apparently kick some ass. I really knew next to nothing about this movie. I knew it was going to be interesting, out there, and full of characters I simply don't know. But after this trailer, I kind of want to see it. Hopefully by the time it comes out, I'll get that damn trailer song out of my head. So, check out the trailer and let me know what you think.
I believe that you should treat people the way that you want to be treated. Didn't Jesus say that?
Rufus Reviews American Hustle. American Hustle is a new drummer by David O. Russell, who has done a few things in the past that have been quite well received, and this is his latest Academy 8 movie. In it we have Christian Bale as Irving Rosenfeld, and his accomplice, Sidney Prosser, played by Amy Adams.
He wasn't necessarily in good shape, and he had this comb-over that was rather elaborate.
Who basically are con men. They are out to rort as many people as possibly can, and they get picked up by Richie DeMarso, played by Bradley Cooper, an FBI agent looking at fraudulent activity and wanting to catch the big people.
My idea is I'm running the show, I'm the quarterback, and I'm not going to settle.
This leads them down a path of deception, of all sorts of things happening all over the place. It's a messy movie. Okay, no two ways about it. It's hard to put on what is wrong with this movie. I mean, the acting is excellent and phenomenal. Jennifer Lawrence as Irving's wife is a particular standout that just has some of the best lines in the entire film.
And you know that I would never say anything bad about your father in front of you, but your father is a sick son of a bitch.
Daddy's a sick son of a bitch?
Don't repeat that. But yes.
Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner as the mayor. They all just do a fantastic job. I mean, there is no denying that these are excellent actors at the top of their form. The music in the movie sets everything off perfectly. I mean, this has got probably one of the best soundtracks I've heard for quite some time. And it really, on surface evidence, should be a good movie. The problem probably comes that, well, it's like making a recipe and including lots of food that you really, really like. But at the end of the day, that food doesn't complement each other. There is probably a case of the fact that they've got these fantastic people who just simply don't seem to have the material to work with, to complement their wonderful performances. It is really, really hard. I really probably can't recommend this movie. I can't really say that, to do anything other than wait for it to be a cheap DVD rental before you go and consider forking out any particular, money on it. It's a shame. Again, there is so much in this movie that is good. Unfortunately, one of the things that isn't good is, well, basically the plot and the goings-on. Everyone is incredibly clever, and that probably is one of the problems within the movie. Conversations can get so convoluted. Everyone is trying to trick or extort or defraud everybody else. So there's no real person for you to sympathise with. There's no real person that says, oh, here's a normal person trying to do the best they can in the middle of all these crazy people. They're all crazy people. It's just simply overwhelming. So, yeah, American Hustle. It has an excellent soundtrack. So I would suggest not seeing it. Thanks. Bye. Oh no, it's a rant! Intro subject to change.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team.
With piracy being such a big issue in Australia, you'd think that companies would be starting to, get the hint that they'd be looking at saying, well, maybe these guys don't want to wait. Maybe these guys don't want to be charged more. Maybe if we treat Australians the way we treat the rest of the world, maybe they won't download as much. You'd think that. But then you got things like the Game of Thrones and Walking Dead being bought up by Foxtel, so you've got to pay like $100 a month subscription fee if you actually want to see them promptly. And when there's a very big movie coming out that people do want to see, and I've spoken to many people that are really wanting to take their kids to see this particular movie, the Lego Movie. Interesting fact, the Lego Movie was actually made in Sydney, so it's kind of an Australian production, which makes it even more mysterious as to why we're being forced to wait an extra 2 months. I mean, I know why we're being forced to wait an extra 2 months is because they want to wait for the Australian school holidays in the thought that that's going to maximise their profit. Here's the problem. Really, we don't like being treated like this. The fact is, this movie has been advertised for the better part of a year. Anyone who has seen anything about it is absolutely pumped to go. My kids are pumped to go. And we don't get to see it to the rest of the world. The only place that gets it after us is New Zealand. Yep, the poor Kiwis have to wait an extra 2 weeks beyond us. So given this wonderful, wonderful situation, it's probably not very surprising that I'm predicting that when we get updated figures as to who's downloading what and what is the most pirated material in particular countries, the Lego Movie is going to be very high on that list for Australia. Within 2 months, chances are there's going to be a high-definition pay-per-view or streamed version, or even the DVD or Blu-ray will be available somewhere in the world. And as soon as that happens, it's all over. Once a high-definition stream gets out there, then it's free game. And it will be downloaded. It will be downloaded a lot. There's going to be people that don't want to wait to see it. There's going to be people that are pissed off that they had to wait before seeing it in Australia. There's going to be people that go, I am downloading this because, well, fuck you. There is no excuse in this market. There is no excuse in the internet age to artificially delay or put any barriers between people that want to give you money and your product. Okay? Do you hear that? Do you guys who work out the distributions for these movies, do you realize that? We want to give you money. We want to pay for your product. I want to get my family. I want to buy a family pass so I can go to the cinema and sit down and watch the Lego movie with my wife and kids on the big screen. We all really want to go. We don't care what time of year it is. I mean, that's what weekends are for. There is no need to artificially wait for a designated holiday as an excuse to not release a movie. Seriously. I mean, we do want to entertain our kids on the weekend. We don't. I mean, entertaining them on school holidays is another matter altogether. In fact, on school holidays, I'd like them to go places and socialise and get out and about. You know, but a weekend trip to the movies, that's something you can do any time. And with release schedules still being tied into deemed profit times and deemed big profit times, people simply don't want to do that anymore. Now, really, the fact is, there's already, I don't know how many, dozens, hundreds of cam recorder, hand cam copies out there. There are torrents and downloads of the Lego movie right now. Frankly, I don't think this would be a sort of movie that you'd want to watch that someone has recorded on the mobile phone. I really think that would lose way too much, and I certainly wouldn't condone that. However, if a high-definition rip comes down the tubes, well, it's going to be pretty hard to resist the temptation, let's put it that way. So, look, let me give you my money. Let me do it. If it comes out anytime in the next month, I will lay down my cash and I will go there. But you know, you can't make people wait. It is complete bullshit. Oh, God. Anyway, that is my rant, and I certainly hope that you found it educating. Now, thank you for listening. Bye. Tech Savvy Fairy Tales presents Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there was a teenage youngster known as Little Red Riding Hood, whose grandmother had taken poorly and been moved to a nearby care facility. Now Little Red was a kindly girl and decided that she would take some treats to her granny to help her feel better. Little Red and her mother looked on Google for some easy treat recipes, and soon they had a tasty selection ready to go. Little Red packed the treats carefully into her cartoon character backpack and was about to leave when her mother said, "Now dear, be careful going through the woods." Little Red smiled and said, "Don't worry, Mum. The woods between here and Granny's has been cleared for the new housing estate. I'll be fine." She grabbed her phone and quickly tweeted, "Going to Grand," with yum treats, but Mum is so overprotective. Lol. To which she got quick replies of, "Save me some lols," "OMG, your mum is a noob," and "I made $10,000 at home. Just click this link." Now Little Red was a very sensible girl, so she didn't click the link. She hopped on her motorized scooter and headed to her grandmother's place. Meanwhile, at Granny's care facility, a big bad wolf had wandered out of the woods behind the building while looking for food, since his normal prey had been severely reduced by the recent land clearing. Granny looked out her window and saw the beast wandering around. "My, what big teeth that wolf has," she thought, as she called for the nurse, who promptly notified the authorities. Little Red arrived just in time to see wildlife control officers tranquilizing the creature, and quickly grabbed her phone to record it and upload it to her YouTube account. Granny was delighted to see Little Red and was even happier when she showed her the treats. They ate them together while they watched the latest episode of Game of Thrones that Little Red had downloaded onto her iPad the night before. They were having a great time until the nurse arrived with Granny's lunch. She was not happy with how sugary the treats were and spoke to Little Red about Granny's dietary requirements. She got Granny's consent to email Little Red a copy of her diet plan to make sure future treats did not compromise Granny's health. And they all lived happily ever after, including the wolf, who was relocated to a wildlife reserve. The end. Rufus Game Review, Spelunky HD. Spelunky HD has been around for a while on Xbox Live and has finally come back to PC. How has it come back? Well, be patient and I will get to that. Spelunky HD is a randomly generated platform where you take your choice of adorably cute characters deeper and deeper into a legendary cursed cave. There is treasure galore, damsels to rescue, weapons and helpful accessories to discover and buy, and there's more monsters and traps that you can shake a boomerang at. Straight up, this game is uncompromisingly difficult. It presents itself as a series of randomly generated levels that take you through 4 different environments as you try to get to the ultimate treasure. In your way are snakes, spiders, scorpions, exploding toads, piranhas, and yetis, and that's just naming a few of them. There are also so many ways to die in this that at times it seems like the 4 lives it gives you initially are not enough. Especially since falling on spikes or getting blown up is an instant game over, no matter how many lives you have. Lives can be restored by finding damsels in distress and getting them to the exit of the level, which will give you 1 life back. But this, tied in with the excellent risk versus reward aspects of the game, means that sometimes you're better off just trying to make it to the exit as quickly as possible. Dangers can be faced in a variety of ways. You can try to avoid nasties by using alternate paths, or you have a limited supply of ropes and bombs if you want to make your own path. There is also the platform staple of jumping on the monsters' heads. This does not remove everybody though. Throughout the game there are crates and treasure chests that sometimes contain handy weapons like spike shoes, which makes your jumping attack much more effective, shotguns, and even a boomerang, which is one of the most fun and effective weapons in the entire game. Additionally, you will come across stores where you can replenish your bomb rope supply, buy weapons, or in the case of the kissing booth, you can buy lives. The probably big disclaimer about this game is that it is addictive. The one more go factor is high, and the desire to see if you can just get a bit further definitely pulls you back in. Once you make it to a new area, there is a helpful character who will eventually build a tunnel for you so you can bypass previous areas at a cost, of course. But using the shortcuts means your game won't count on the leaderboards. If you get this on Steam or PlayStation Network or Xbox Live, there is also a daily challenge mode where a single level is set, and players basically challenge each other to see who can get the best score. The daily challenge, though, is very interesting in that you only get 1 shot at it. So once you try it and you die, that's it. You cannot play the daily level again. It certainly adds an extra layer of replayability in this already very addictive game. But, if you're not too sure about it, if you're not too sure if you want to lay your cash down, if you have a PC, don't worry. Spelunky started out as a freeware game for Windows before being polished up and marketed. The good news is that the developers still have the original version available at their website at Spelunky World, and it's still free. In the paid version, they've added more hazards and features, of course, but the original is still excellent, and I was addicted to it when it first came out a few years back. Go on and try it out. It's free, so the only thing you'll lose is the time once you get addicted. Overall, Spelunky is a very difficult, yet very, very fun game. It has great pick-up and play value, and can be played in short bursts or long play sessions. I must admit that many of my short bursts do become long play sessions. Best of all, the original game is still up there and free to download. Of course, the downside is there are times when you will get pretty frustrated. So if you're feeling a bit cranky or short-tempered, you may want to wait till you're a bit calmer and ready to face falling on spike traps many times in short succession within a 10-minute game session. But really, seriously, get Spelunky HD. It is awesome. Yeah. Bye. Prepare to lose some brain cells with this week's Clever Geek of the Week. Introduction subject to change. This week's Clever Geek of the Week comes from our old friends at Fox News. Yeah, it really is always seems to be a very cheap shot to use Fox, but seriously, they just keep on delivering and delivering and delivering. This week, we saw a wonderful piece run where the anchor was basically saying how much the Lego movie is indoctrinating kids to hate business. Now, first of all, that is just insane. And remember that Fox News has also attacked the Muppets previously, as Tex Richmond was the evil oil baron. And they also brought up the Lorax in the story because they reckoned it was just anybody who was against the environmentalists who wanted to start a new business was a bad guy. They decided to get a media analyst in, some poor fellow by the name of Paul, last name I can't pronounce, and he was trying to make some good points. He actually was. He was trying to discuss the movie. He was trying to be reasonable about it. The problem was that the interviewer, if you want to call him that, kept interrupting and kept talking over him and kept talking around him. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, about halfway through the segment, another anchor chimes in, interrupting from nowhere, and brings in yet another irrelevant facet and starts talking about other bits and pieces. And then a third anchor interrupts. This poor guy is just trying to make the point that Hollywood's just out to make money, trying to make the point that Hollywood, they have the option, people have the option of whether or not they want to watch a movie. It's a free market. And he simply could not get the point out. I think pretty much any time he started saying anything that went against what the Fox News guys were trying to say, he was talked over and talked down. Frankly, if you do watch this clip, it's mind-numbing. It is appalling. I really think that I did lose some brain cells watching this piece of trash. So, for showing yet another fantastic misunderstanding of, the world in general, and finding fault in something which is really just a straightforward, innocent, fun kids movie, I hereby award these wonderful, wonderful anchors of the Fox News Network this week's Clever Geeks of the Week. Wow, they just failed big time. Thanks for listening to the inaugural Rufus Review podcast, name subject to change. I hope you found it informative, a little educational, entertaining, and you didn't have to skip too much of me rambling on. So, if you would like to give me feedback, and please, I would love for you to give me feedback. You have a few options. You can head to Facebook and just search for Rufus Reviews, one word. There is the blog that this all comes from in the first place, rufusreviews.blogspot.com. You can even find me on Twitter at Rufus Reviews. Yep, there's a bit of a pattern here. Or you can even email me at rufusreviews@gmail.com. I know that's pretty confusing and there are a lot of options there, but I'm pretty sure that you can figure that out. Now, I do intend to mix things up a bit. I do hope to introduce a bit more variety than just me talking for the entire time for this in the future. And I'm hoping to bring in another person who I will be having chats with over the next week or so to see if we can hammer something out. So please let me know what you thought. Let me know your opinions, your derisions, and anything else that rhymes with that. So again, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you'll tune in next time. Thanks so much. Bye.